Outlaw Law is brought to you by Whitaker and Hamer, attorneys and counselors at law. Your law firm for life.
The Outlaw Lawyers, Josh Whitaker and Joe Hamer, managing partners, Whitaker and Hamer Law Firm, the power behind the Outlaw Lawyers. Joining us on the program, obviously, Josh Whitaker is here. Joe Hamer on assignment. Cassandra Nicholas joining us from the Morehead City office. And we have Taylor Scruggs-Smith in studio. Convenient office locations for you when it comes to Whitaker and Hamer. They're everywhere. Raleigh, Garner, Clayton, Goldsboro, Fuquay, Varina, Gastonia, and again, Morehead City. If you've got a legal situation you're facing, you've got questions, you need answers, I got a phone number, 800-659-1186. That's 800-659-1186. Leave your contact information, briefly what that call is about, and an attorney with Whitaker and Hamer will be in touch. And as always, you can email your questions to the show, questions@theoutlawlawyer.com, and we'll answer those on a future program. And speaking of questions, Josh,
We've got some answers. We have questions and we have answers.
well, you got to give the question, then you've got to answer them, right?
Right. Before we do that, though, so if you listened last week, we've been enamored with ChatGPT.
It's true.
And all it can do, we're very enchanted with these AI chatbots. And so what I use ChatGPT for, I like to use it for haikus. For me, it's just a fancy haiku maker. And so we're about to answer questions about family law, North Carolina family law. You've got 3 North Carolina attorneys here. We're going to answer for free some listener questions about family law. But I wanted a haiku. This is what I want. I wanted a haiku about NC family law. And this is what ChatGPT gave me.
Bum, ba, bum.
You guys ready? Mm-hmm. Taylor, you ready? Yeah. Families in court. NC law guides the process. Justice for all salt. I think it's very good. It's very good at writing haikus.
Yeah. I got to say this. I'm not going to name the other radio programs, but I've heard a lot of this going on. The chatbot haikus, different formats.
Do you think? I didn't get that from anybody. I think I invented that.
I think you invented it. I think someone has stolen it from you.
We were on ChatGPT haikus a long time ago. But anyway, family. I'm gonna put some more prompts in here while everybody else is talking. But family law questions. So we get a ton we have a lot of family law clients. A lot of folks come to us to help them with divorce, separation, child custody, alimony, all these family law buzzwords. We meet with family law clients every day. It's a big practice area for us. And one of the questions I hear all the time, Taylor, I know you hear this more than me. North Carolina, we got a lot of folks. We're very lucky. North Carolina's a popular destination place, so it's popular for people to move in. We're always taking people in from other states. Some other states have what we call a legal separation. Taylor, does North Carolina have legal separation?
No. And this is kind of I think I've gotten this question like 4 times in the last 2 weeks as a way to start off my consults, because everybody hears that buzzword. They know that in North Carolina, you have to be separated for a year and a day in order to get divorced. And so everybody thinks there's a process to prove that you're actually separated. But the statute just says you have to be living separate and apart. So the second one person moves out and you guys don't intend the marriage to continue, you're separated in the eyes of North Carolina. You don't have to have a legal document filed with the court to prove that you're starting the separation period or anything like that. And in fact, a lot of couples don't have anything like that and don't even sign a separation agreement, if they do at all, until later in the process. So that is not something North Carolina actually requires. You just have to be living separate and apart, which does not mean living one person in the garage house or the second house and the other still in the main house. You have to actually have separate addresses.
Yeah, so North Carolina...
I do think it's...
Go ahead, Cassandra.
Sorry. Confusing for folks because pop culture and other resources don't really distinguish between like what states they're referring to, and some states do have legal separation. North Carolina is just not one of them.
Right. And so I do think it gets confusing because I think people will Google, which is what happens a lot today in today's time. Even I Google, but what people end up Googling is just separation. And if you don't put NC at the end of that, you'll get tons of answers that have nothing to do with North Carolina, telling you have to file this or file that to start the separation period. North Carolina doesn't require any of that. It's just just somebody has to move out. And that's the other.
Family law is one area that's like very state based. Like it can vary a lot state to state.
Right. So like I know some states don't even have the year-long requirement for separation, but North Carolina does. So every state is different when it comes to family law because that is a state regulated matter. So there's not a nationwide standard on how to get married or how to get divorced.
Yeah, we've had clients who, depending on the circumstances, maybe they were already planning to move, but we've had clients who at least entertain moving to other states where maybe the divorce laws are a little more easy to deal with, right? North Carolina, like you said, you got to be separated and apart for a year before you can get your divorce granted. And that is, that's kind of an old school law. A lot of the more southern Bible Belt states still have these waiting period laws where maybe like a New York, a California don't.
But some of those up north states and even some down south states have lifetime alimony.
Man. Yeah, you definitely got to be careful. And a lot of times our clients come in just to they just consult to find out what the law is. They haven't left their spouse. Obviously, it's come up. It's something they've thought about. But a lot of people don't know the laws in North Carolina. A lot of people don't know what they'll be liable for or be able to get in the terms of alimony or child support. And so there's a lot of question marks when people are in a married relationship where they're thinking about separating.
Right. So I get a lot of consults that happen right before they even have the conversation with their spouse because they're just trying to understand what the law is on separation and how that may go and just get prepared.
Chat GPT in its co-hosting duties was asked to write a haiku about legal separation. You want to hear what it came up with?
Yes, I do.
All right. I like it better when Joseph reads these. I think he has a better haiku reading voice than I do, but he's not
dry sarcasm.
Yeah, but he's not here, so we're gonna have to make do. So, Chat GPT wrote a haiku: "Ties once strong, now frayed. Legal separation marks new paths to be made." Which I'm very impressed about that haiku.
That actually is pretty good.
That is very good haiku. One, because haikus don't have to rhyme. They kind of threw in there some slant rhyme, and haikus don't have to do that. But anyway, so legal separation, it is not a thing. I know we had a client in Washington who went to the courthouse, Washington, the state, and got a legal separation, and they sent us all this paperwork. I think they were trying to sell some property. Not good enough here. Doesn't work here. In North Carolina, you are married, unmarried, single, right? That's it for marital statuses in North Carolina.
Yep.
All right. So we get that question a lot. So we wanted to answer that one. Another question we get a lot: is there common law marriage in North Carolina? Taylor, is there common law marriage in North Carolina?
I feel like my word of the day, brought to you by Whitaker and Hamer, is going to be no. So we actually get this question a lot, but it's come up more in terms of common law divorce, which North Carolina doesn't have either. So North Carolina does not recognize common law marriage or common law divorce. So if you've just been together with your significant other for 15 years, that does not automatically grant you rights as a married person. And if you've just been separated for 10, 14, 12 years, that does not automatically mean you're divorced in North Carolina. So there's no such thing as common law marriage or common law divorce. If you weren't married or you weren't divorced, you don't automatically get any rights either taken away or added to you.
I just had this question the other day during a real estate closing. We have folks sign a marital status affidavit to attest to whether they were married or unmarried. And this individual looks up and asks, does North Carolina have common law marriage? Nope, you're safe. Great.
That's such a foreign concept to me. I had like distant cousins and stuff from different states, and I remember them talking about, I didn't know what it meant when I was a kid, but I remember them talking about their common law wife, right, or their common law husband. And it just sounds so crazy to me that if you just, because I'm not licensed to practice in South Carolina, but what is it, like 7 years of cohabitating or something like that?
That's like squatting, right?
It depends on the state. I think some are 7, some are 10, some are like 8.
If you live in a state that has common law marriage, you have to be very aware of what that number is. And you need to, like, your kids need to know, like, everybody needs to know because they need to get out. Like if it's 7 years, you need to know like 6.5 years in. You're not. You got
Is this working? Or
Yeah. You got
time to move on.
Are you married or are you just squatting? What are you doing?
Yeah.
Funny enough, I get the
Adverse
question
possession
on
of a person.
right. I get the question on the opposite side of, hey, is there common law divorce? I've been separated for like 15 years. And I'm like, yeah, no. And now I got to go bother Josh because you didn't tell us this.
So again, I'm feeding Chat GPT some prompts while we're talking. So I said, write a haiku. It can do other things, but write a haiku about common law marriage. You want to hear what it said?
Yes.
This one's even better than the last one. I'm really impressed with what it's laying down here. No vows were spoken, yet love's bond was still formed strong. Common law union.
Wow.
It's improving.
That's just, it amazes me.
Art.
All right. So that's 2 questions down. Let's do another question. Taylor, I don't know how to phrase this question to get a yes or no out of you. I guess I'll do it this way. In North Carolina.
I'm on Jeopardy.
In North Carolina, one spouse takes title to real property via deed, right? So this one person,
Okay.
we'll say the husband, since I'm talking right now. The husband's on title. Can that husband, the only one on the deed, can he sell that real property to someone else without his spouse's signature?
And again, the word of the day is no.
I had to ask that very carefully, but
So the standard is in North Carolina that it takes 1 to buy and 2 to sell if you're married. Under marital rights and divorce law specifically, if you buy property during the marriage, regardless of how it's titled, it is presumed marital property unless you can show otherwise. And it's really hard to show otherwise when you're just buying homes during the marriage. And anything that's marital property gets divided 50-50. So even if her name's not on title, your wife still has rights to whatever property you just bought.
and that's one of the reasons, Cassandra, you were saying that came up at a closing, because at closings and before closings, we asked this of our sellers, right?
Yeah, so we have these marital status affidavits that we do at closing, but we do ask ahead of time so that we know who should be on these documents. So we have very detailed intake forms, and sometimes we don't always get the answers we're expecting. So that's why we also have this double coverage of having them sign a notarized document as to their marital status.
Yeah, we have.
I do want to note there are ways around having the spouse sign for closings as well, as long as we know about it. Yes, you can do a free trader agreement, or if you already had a prenuptial agreement that addressed real estate when you got married, that could also alleviate that requirement.
Yeah, the availability of a free trader agreement always surprises folks. It's kind of a funky name for it, but there is a statute in North Carolina that allows you and your spouse, it's presumed, the law presumes that you're going to act together, especially in things like selling real property, that you're going to act together there. But a free trader agreement, you and your spouse can go in and sign an agreement where you agree to basically operate under the North Carolina statutes as if you were not married, right? So we wouldn't necessarily be looking for a spouse's signature if we knew that you were a free trader or we knew there was a prenuptial agreement. But yeah, like Cassandra said, there's a lot of ways to negate that spousal interest with consent.
As long as we know.
Yeah. But we run into a lot of folks too who have been separated for 20 years.
Yeah, and there's nothing, they don't even know where the other person is. You might not be able to get consent, which is primarily the main way to have that done without anything else.
All right. Well, we didn't get to all of our family law questions, but we got through a lot of the common ones that we get on a day-to-day basis. So up next, we are going to tackle probate, estate administration.
Outlaw Lawyers Josh Whitaker and Joe Hamer, managing partners, Whitaker and Hamer Law Firm, hosts of this program. We have Josh in studio today. Also joining him in studio, Taylor Scruggs-Smith, and from the Moorhead City office, Cassandra Nicholas. Again, Joe on assignment this week. Offices for Whitaker and Hamer conveniently located Raleigh, Garner, Clayton, Goldsboro, Fuquay, Varina, Gastonia, and Moorhead City. If you've got a legal situation and you need answers to your questions, I've got a phone number for you, 800-659-1186. That's 800-659-1186. 1186. Leave your contact information, briefly what the call is about, and an attorney with Whitaker and Hamer will be in touch. And as always, you can email your questions to the show, questions@theoutlawlawyer.com. We'll answer them on a future program. When we come back, well, more legalese, and I'm sure we'll have a few more chatbot haikus.
Yeah, I already got 2 of them lined up.